Hunter Hunter. Yes, the infamous hiatus. The series that has been on hiatus longer than pretty much any other manga. I mean, Vagabond has been on hiatus for a long time. Berserk was at one point on hiatus for a long time. But Hunter Hunter is the most infamous hiatus series. And it is so unfortunate that it is on hiatus when it poses one of the strongest stories in all of shonen. And this story I caught up to very recently. In fact, I caught up to the manga yesterday. And because the manga was so good, I just had to make a video on it. So today, I'm talking about the great Hunter Hunter. No, it is not Hunter x Hunter, it is Hunter Hunter. And so today, I'm going to be talking about why I think Hunter Hunter is a peak shonen series and why you must watch the anime and then read the manga, because both are incredible. Like, sub, comment, do all that stuff. I mentioned that in every single video of mine, so you should do it because I mentioned every video. But besides that, let's talk about Hunter Hunter, because I mean, this has become one of my favorite shonen series of all time. Let's talk about it. Hunter Hunter is similar to many shonen in the beginning. It starts off with this cheerful main character named Gon, and Gon is this just pretty plain protagonist. As we see him in the beginning of the story, we're introduced to Kurapika, Leorio, and later Killua. Those four would be the four main protagonists of the series, and we follow them down their journey as each of them have a different dream. Gon being to find his father, Killua being to, well, I guess Killua doesn't really have a dream, but we move on from that. Kurapika being probably the strongest goal out of all four of them, being that he wants to avenge his clan that was slaughtered by a group known as the Spiders, or the Phantom Troop. That is a very interesting goal at the beginning of the story, and I remember seeing that for the first time being like, damn, this character is gonna be sick. Leorio, of course, he wants to be a doctor, pretty chill, basic dreams, right? This story is built up to be kind of a chill shonen series. The Hunter exam arc goes pretty well, you know, everyone gets their Hunter license, except for Killua. It all goes smoothly. The next arc would be the Killua retrieval arc. It is fine, it's a decent arc. We get more and more about Killua and his backstory and what he came from, being from a family of assassins, all that stuff. Yeah, it's fun. Whoa. Okay, the York New City arc. Wow, this arc took me by surprise. I'm gonna be honest. The York New City arc took me by surprise because not only was this arc heavily focused around Kurapika, which was my favorite character up until that point, but that arc was built beautifully with the spiders, Kurapika's revenge, the soundtracks, the outro theme. My god, the outro theme in the Phantom Troop arc was the best outro I've ever heard. I don't care what anyone says. But the York New City arc was, up until that point, easily the best arc in the series. And that arc built Kurapika's character so much for me, and he became my favorite character. Even until now, finishing the series, he's still my favorite character. And that's because of the way he approaches his revenge. His ability, his Nen ability, matches the way he seeks revenge so well. I love his ability. And by the way, Nen is, in my opinion, the best power system in anime, because Nen is just the detail put into Nen, and the way it matches personality is incredible. And I love the Nen power system. But going back to my point on the York New City arc, Kurapika, as I mentioned, would become my favorite character, but the Phantom Troop would become my favorite group of villains, probably up until that point. The Phantom Troop was such a menacing group of villains. Crollo would become probably my favorite villain up until that point. Yes, I had Crollo above Hisoka, because Crollo was just menacing at that point. Crollo versus Zeno and Silva, that fight was sick. And of course, if we're talking about fights in Hunter x Hunter, I'm not gonna ignore the fact that Kurapika brought a flippin' shovel to fight Uvogin with. I mean, the man brought a shovel. But I'm getting over the top about this. Even though it was an incredible arc, there is still much more about Hunter x Hunter that I have not yet addressed in this video. And that is, of course, the Greed Island. The Chimera Ant arc was the biggest climax in the entire series. Now I'm gonna get serious for a moment here, because the Chimera Ant arc was no joke. For a shonen series to go that dark, and to build an antagonist like Meruem, and to build a protagonist like Gon, wow, I mean, I was not expecting that at all. I know the Chimera Ant arc started very slow. In my opinion, the beginning of the Chimera Ant arc was very slow, but that's for a reason. It built up the characters very well. I would say as soon as Meruem was born was when Hunter x Hunter reached its peak. It's when the Chimera Ant arc became known as one of the best shonen arcs ever. And that is because Meruem, in the very short time that he was alive, developed into one of the best antagonists I've ever seen. His dynamic with Gon and how he is the one that is a monster and how he's heartless, and he slowly develops into being a human, right? Even though he's an ant, he's not a human. But then Gon falls into depths of darkness. After what happened to Kite, he falls into darkness and he falls into anger and rage. The relationship between Komugi and Meruem was beautiful. The ending of that relationship was just beautiful. One of the best scenes in all of Hunter x Hunter was them playing that game. When Meruem was about to die due to the fight against Netsuru, that was one of the most beautiful scenes in Hunter x Hunter. Just the relationship that they had and how Meruem, being such a strong figure, being such a big king, he's a king, and yet he feels bad for such an innocent soul like Komugi. I mean, name me a better relationship than that in Hunter x Hunter. That was beautiful. And of course, I mentioned some of the best fights earlier in the video, being Kurapika vs Uvo, but the best fight in Hunter x Hunter, at least for now in the anime, Meruem vs Netsuru. I mean, wow. Probably my favorite fight in all of Hunter x Hunter. Maybe Hisoka vs Crollo in the manga, but Meruem versus Netsuru. What an incredible fight. And it wasn't the fight itself, like the action. The action was great, but the parallels between Meruem and Netsuru. Meruem being the one who just wants his name. He doesn't want to fight. While as Netsuru being that goofy old man that we see at the beginning, he's serious. He needs to get rid of Meruem to save what's left of humanity, basically. He's kind of the monster in this fight, whereas Meruem is the one who just wants to find out what his name is. And the conclusion to this fight would be Meruem killing himself and releasing this bomb that would eventually kill both Meruem and I think it was Poof. And the conclusion to that fight was incredible. Meruem eventually dying, and of course Netsuru dying at that point. Of course, I'm not going to not talk about Gon. Gon in this arc, oh my god. For a protagonist to be like that, for a kid, a 12-year-old protagonist, you would never expect something like this. And a lot of people compare his rage to like Naruto and Ichigo, but that's not how it is, because they have literal beasts inside of them. The thing with Gon is he just fell into darkness, like forever. Like he just fell into darkness completely. You can see that it's so difficult for him to overcome the idea of Kite being dead. And the fact that Pito was in front of Kite and didn't do anything about it, that's what really pushed it to another level. People say that Kite isn't a character we bonded with that much. Yeah, that is true, we didn't bond with Kite a lot. The fact that Pito didn't do anything to Kite, didn't heal him, that turned Gon off. Like, he just went off. And the way that this episode 131, wow, one of the best anime episodes I've ever seen. Gon's rage at that moment, when he says, I don't care if this is the end, and he just goes off. He doesn't care about anything at that point. In some of these scenes, you can see the darkness in his eyes. Look at Gon's eyes in these moments. There's nothing in them. There's no humanity left in them. And that parallel to where Meruem becomes so much more like a human and Gon becomes so much less like a human and becomes a monster. What a parallel. An incredible arc. The Chimera Ant arc would be probably one of my favorite shonen arcs ever. It was masterfully written. Now that would be the conclusion to the anime, but after the anime comes the manga, and I don't have too much to say about the manga besides some certain things that happen. First of all, Hisoka versus Crollo. The build up towards this fight was built up for a very long time, of course, because as we know, Crollo versus Hisoka was supposed to happen, but Crollo lost his Nen in the York New City arc. And although it isn't a very deep battle, is more of like a 1v1, just go crazy, insane battle. And some of the panels in these chapters were beautifully drawn. The fight was incredible, very intense. Of course, a lot of Nen explanation as usual, because we can never forget that bungee gum has the properties of both rubber and gum. Oh my god! Wow! But the Hisoka vs Crollo fight was, in my opinion, either the second maybe best fight in this series, but I think Meruem vs. Netsuru just has a bit of an edge, in my opinion. The last thing in the manga that I want to talk about is, of course, the Kakin Prince competition, and that is where Kurapika becomes even more relevant in the story. He basically becomes the main character in the manga because Gon is absolutely gone.
Nice.
Like, he is nowhere to be seen. Kurapika becomes basically the protagonist at that point in the story, and of course I love that because he is my favorite character in the series, and him becoming kind of like the protagonist, I love that, and that's why I really enjoyed the manga a lot. Of course, it suffers from the dreadful word known as hiatus, and it is probably never going to come back. Hunter x Hunter could have honestly had like 200 more chapters with the Dark Continent and everything, but it probably isn't ever going to come back. Sorry to break it to you, Hunter x Hunter fans, but I highly doubt Togashi will come back to this masterpiece of a series that he's made. But this video was just to let you know that I completed the Hunter x Hunter manga and just give you my overall thoughts. I didn't go too deep into it in this video. Just wanted to give my shallow thoughts on this series, and I think Hunter x Hunter is a masterpiece. And if you have not yet watched or read it, first of all, why the hell are you on this video? Second of all, watch it right now. But besides that, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Take care and peace.